Welcome, one and all, to our 112th episode of Project Geekology. Today we will not be throwing a coin to our Witcher, but we will be talking about Geralt of Rivia, as well as Jaskier or Dandelion if you prefer, on an adventure that has recently been released on Netflix. It's an animated film called Sirens of the Deep, and we have a lot to say about it. I've got a lot to say about it. My name is Dakota. I'm joined as always with
Anthony, and I know that you say we weren't going to be talking about tossing a coin to the Witcher, but are we going to be talking about O Valley of Plenty?
if by O Valley of Plenty you mean like the coastline and like the ocean, then yes.
Yes. And joining us as always is
Rich, I'm excited here. Despite the siren songs that you may have heard to start the show, I think that we will all navigate these waters and come to an accord at the end.
We better. We sure as hell better. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about today with the Netflix film The Witcher: Sirens of the Deep, adapted from my personal favorite Witcher story, which is called A Little Sacrifice, which is featured in the first Witcher novel, Sword of Destiny. I'm excited to talk about some of the pros and cons of like how it was adapted, because I really love that story. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about what we've been up to this past week. Anthony, we'll start with you.
what have I been up to? I have been up to playing, our topic of last week, Marvel Rivals. I've been playing more of that. I don't play it like crazy all the time, so like my rank isn't super high, but like I'm almost in platinum. I've made it to gold 1, so I'm getting up there, but I've been doing that. I talked to you a little bit in the beginning, like before we started recording, that I have been, kind of full steam on another like stint of watching One Piece. Like I'll watch a whole bunch of it and then like I'll start taking a break, which I don't want to take like as long of a break as I did like this last time. But there are some anime that like I want to watch this time around. I think the second season of Solo Leveling finished up, so I definitely want to watch that. The first season was awesome. I heard that the second season just kind of ups the ante, so I'm really excited about that. And I also talked to like Rich and Dakota off of the recording, but like a few months back, I had applied for a remote position. It's an IT position for the bank that I work for, and I did not end up getting it that first time around. The position opened up again like 5 months later, and I applied, and this time I got it, and I start at the end of this month.
That's awesome, dude. I'm happy for you.
Kudos.
I was like depressed when you said that you didn't get it the first time. I was just like, oh, but they kept your application, right? And yeah, so it's good that they kept it because they clearly liked you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The hiring manager was the one that reached out to me when this position opened up, and he was like, hey, we have a position opening up, apply now.
Nice.
And so that's what I did, and they ended up hitting me up, and they kind of like brought up points about last time, like, that, we were really impressed about this, and it wasn't like fully their like choice to like choose the last person. I think that like as a collective they chose the last person, but they were like, last time you really did make it hard, and it felt a little unfair that we weren't able to pick you too, but we're glad that we get to pick you now. I'm really stoked about that and excited to kind of grow and learn a lot more. And so yeah, man, like big moves. I feel like I'm progressing and whatnot. I'm excited about that. But yeah, how about you, Dakota? What have you been up to? I know that you haven't been feeling so well, so...
Yeah, I got like really sick yesterday. I don't know what happened. I don't think it's the flu, or I don't know if it is the flu, but I got like a really bad cold where I just had like chills on and off for the past 2 days.
Oof.
I almost canceled the recording today because earlier today I was having a hard time talking, but as of right now I can manage an hour of conversation on and off, so that's not too bad. As far as what I've been up to, I watched a little bit of Daredevil, the new Marvel series that is on Disney Plus.
Oh, same. I watched the first episode.
What'd you think?
It was, I feel like that there's definitely, they've got something going there. They definitely shock you like pretty quick in the beginning, There was definitely some sort of symbolism that was happening there in the meta, though, like not really inside the show, but like in the meta. But I feel like that's something that we could probably, I don't want to divulge too much. It's fresh, it's new, and I want to let it kind of release before we actually like talk about it. But like,
Oh yeah,
in a sidebar,
I was trying to figure out what you were saying about.
Yeah.
The
Like
meta.
like
It's
with,
yeah.
with like the first like 16 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
So
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. It was kind of weak compared to the original show in terms of the cinematography and the writing. But it's good to see these characters again, even only for a couple minutes.
I will say, I mean, the cinematography might not be as strong, but it's still stronger than a lot of what has been coming out recently for Disney Marvel stuff. But it was nice seeing Charlie Cox again. It's hard to like see anybody else in that role, and I'm glad that
he's fantastic in that role. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rich, did you give it a shot?
Oh yeah, I mean my bar is pretty low for superhero and Star Wars content. I think I have to be fair, kind of say that. So I really loved it. I mean, I think the only thing that I had heard that I guess earlier versions or earlier shoots of this were more mainstream accessible, so when Charlie he's 10, he hears about a series, he's like, oh, I want to watch it, and when I heard about Daredevil, I was like, give me a sec, I gotta check it out, and I remember with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, he heeded my warnings and he basically watched New Rockstar's analysis, but he didn't see any live action clips of Doctor, of Scarlet Witch going crazy. And I'm watching this, and even 2 episodes in, I know that he can't watch it. It's like
they're not holding back.
He'll watch. He could watch Deadpool because Deadpool is kind of being ridiculous, and it almost seems like it's not really.
It's cartoony.
Yeah, it's cartoony murder. Also, my wife fell asleep during the movie, so that helped a lot. But this is like a little too serious, I'm just like, I don't think I'm cool with it. I really liked it. I mean, if only to see the characters back, definitely. I love D'Onofrio's Kingpin. He's
so good.
It's unbelievable. Like, what's weird is he, like, for example, lost weight, and they do comment on that in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But with another person, it would feel like, oh man, they're not in character now, right? But for him, it legitimately feels like part of the psyche of the Kingpin in this moment, right? Like, he's leaner, he's healthier, but he's weaker. He's not as aggressive. And
right, yeah, it's interesting.
I love that. I'll just say that Vanessa scares the bejesus out of me. She is, wow. I mean, right now for me, 2 episodes in, just a villain that is understated, and that makes it all the more distressing.
Okay.
So
cool.
I liked.
Which is weird because she wasn't that character in the original show.
Yep.
Like, she evolved into that character for this show.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So I think it's, look, I try to give all of them a pretty good shake going in, and it did not feel like I'm not going to say it was season 4, but it's not terribly different. So if this is a multiverse, this is the universe right over, it's just a little off.
Okay, sure. Yeah, all right.
It's like your favorite dish, but you get it at a different restaurant. So it's still really good, but like, it's not the same as the other one.
Got it.
Well, and that's exactly what they're going for. They're not trying to make it a season 4. Mm-hmm. They're really like leaning in on the whole rebirth like name, and they're not going based off of a storyline, but more of it being a rebirth of the Daredevil series, without them completely, reworking it. And those like first, the beginning is them trying to like kind of move on from that, I feel like they could have maybe done that a little bit better, but it was still shocking enough. But I don't want to reveal too much and dig too deep. I know that eventually we'll talk about it at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to dedicate an episode or two to Daredevil Born Again, because the episodes are long. The first episode is an hour long, which is unlike Disney Plus.
Yeah, I was excited, man.
I was excited when I saw that. That gave me a little bit of hope.
And also, something that Disney is, and this is a crime to me, is they'll put a show, it'll be 30 to 45 minutes, and 6 of it's credits.
Oh, man.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a crime, dude. I'm dude, I see what y'all did. We didn't need to see all this.
Yeah. I don't need to know who the Icelandic typecaster is. Please.
Right? You don't need
it's so
that.
Crazy. Their credits are... It's really insane.
Before I cede my time over to Rich in terms of what I've been up to this past week, I want to talk about a couple books that I got that I'm excited to jump into. All of them Avatar related.
The code of the book guy.
Book guy. I start with Avatar Legends, the role-playing game, Uncle Iroh's Adventure Guide.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's the latest hardcover booklet or adventure guide for the Avatar Legends role-playing game. It's been out for a couple months now. This is the first I've picked it up and given it a look at. But yeah, it expands on the lore of the Avatar universe, as well as giving you 5 unique stories from different eras, starting from Kyoshi to Roku to 100-Year War to Aang and then Korra, all taking place within a unique setting. So yeah, I'm excited to jump into that. Next up, another Avatar book, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Solek's Journey. May not be the Avatar that you guys were expecting to hear. I was a big fan of Frontiers of Pandora, the video game.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
That came out probably about a year ago at this point. And the character in it that they made a overarching narrative with for this comic series, it's Dark Horse comic series, 6 issues. And I don't know anything about what's in this book besides that it ties in with the video game Frontiers of Pandora. So I'm excited to jump into that. And just this past week, the first one-shot comic graphic novel for The Legend of Korra came out. Ooh. It's called The Mystery of Penquan Island, and I'm excited to jump into it. It follows Mako and Bolin as they get a tip about something going on with Penquan Island, and on the cover it kind of hints at, we will probably learn more about their early life with their parents. So there's a mystery there, and I'm excited to jump into that. So yeah, some Avatar content for me to read this week.
Nice.
Other than that, yeah, I think I'm going to cede my time to Rich. Rich, what have you been up to this past week?
I mean, I've got some work stuff going on, so that kind of takes over a little bit. But other than that, I finally finished Outlaws. Well, I've completed the main quest and everything, and I'm doing one of the DLCs now that they came out with. I think there's another one on the way, actually, if I'm reading everything correctly. Just kind of in a holding pattern to MLB The Show is downloaded. That would be exactly 8 days from now. I will come home from work, and I will be a happy man. Baseball will be in full swing. So just ready for that.
Yeah, it's spring training right now, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm making my family watch meaningless games taking place in this tiny little stadium
in Florida.
Yeah, they're just what already? We're getting started? These don't count. So, but it's right around the corner.
It's still fun to see the players, warming up.
Yeah, so that's.
Oh yeah, I did. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say with us being on the topic of video games, dude, I completely forgot. And it's probably because I'm feeling pretty sleepy right now, but I completely forgot that I've also been playing Monster Hunter Wilds.
Oh yeah, how is it?
Dude, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. The world is pretty open now. There's definitely spots where you kind of load in, but it's nowhere near how Monster Hunter used to be, where every zone was you would have to load in and load out. Monster Hunter World took away a lot of that, but now the home bases that you go to, you can go straight to the zone from there. You don't load in from there. I mean, there is loading, like, when you go to hop into a hunt to like help somebody else with a hunt, then like you'll like load into their game and then like you'll kind of join them there. But it's been fun. Like, it's really cool. I feel like they definitely, a lot of the, like, almost like all of the weapons, they've done a lot of TLC over the years of like certain weapons, like especially like the hunting horn and stuff. And this is like the culmination of that. I like Monster Hunter, and that's why I had asked you, I think last week, or like last last episode,
if my brother was excited for it.
Yeah, if he was gonna get it. And yeah, man, it was worth it. The wait was worth it. I've been, Monster Hunter, like, to me is like, MLB the show to Rich. So
Nice. You'll enjoy it, man.
I heard that depending on the weapon that you choose, your gameplay style could be like Devil May Cry or like Elden Ring.
yes. So
Which is so funny.
So like, I mean, but it, for a long time it's kind of been like that. Like when you're fighting with something like a long sword or like a great sword, you're going to be doing a lot of like slower swings. The long sword is faster than the great sword, but yeah, like that does feel like a little bit Elden Ringy or Dark Souls like. But then you use the dual swords, and like it's a lot of like hack and slashing, and you're like,
just a lot faster.
Yeah, a lot faster. And then sometimes there's like this ability that you can use with the dual swords that allows you to do this crazy combo that like you like attack, go into the air, use your like the like, not grappling hook, but it's like a, it's like a kind of like a grapple to like, pull yourself back to the monster, and then like you do this crazy like windmill attack down the back of it. So yeah, that's definitely like Devil May Cry. And then you have a lot of long range weapons like bows and bow guns. I actually have been using a lot more bow guns this time around. I dabbled with it in Monster Hunter World and Rise, but I usually stuck with the insect glaive or even like the dual swords. I used to play a lot of gun lance before that, but yeah, like I've been messing around with the bow guns in this one. But yeah, dude, it's just been fantastic. I don't know if you've heard anything about it from Austin. I know Austin.
I haven't spoken to him in a bit.
Yeah,
so I haven't heard anything.
But he's probably enjoying it too.
Oh, I'm sure he is. Yeah.
So,
knowing my brother, Rich, we kind of cut you off.
Yeah, sorry about that,
else
Rich.
You've been up to?
Oh, no. I've heard of this Monster Hunter. I'm not there yet. Like I said, since I have the what's baseball? Listen, let me put it this way: I played 1,408 hours MLB The Show last year, from release to as of a few weeks ago, where I just couldn't take the fact that the rosters weren't updated because I'm a petulant child, and it feels, honestly, the problem is they've got me because it feels wrong. Like, even if a team has just 3 players that are different, I'm like, that's team chemistry, baby. That's different. I can't play. I cannot play. I wish I was that person who could just keep a copy of a game and play it, because the truth is, how many changes are there going to be? Probably none. I paid an absurd amount of money. I got the digital early release because I'm a crazy person. So I'm going to get that. I'm going to get digital cards that I get to open early, because that'll be awesome. So I have shiny cards in a digital game.
But it'll have the rosters that are correct. So
I'm telling you, you know what it comes down to? The reason I play that game, and nobody really knows this, I only do the baseball part so that I can get the cards, right? Like, I play this Diamond Dynasty mode, and I just want to get the cool cards. Like, they just come out with like a different version of Francisco Lindor that's like a hologram, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. So like they really have you. This is a card collecting game where you have to play baseball to earn more fancy cards.
That's kind of
that's
cool.
really all I'm doing, right? Is like mindlessly grinding.
It's a collection. I
mindlessly grind against only the computer, basically on rookie. I don't want to challenge myself. I just want to enjoy myself, and then I just earn these cards. So that's the secret. Is all my games, I'm either just playing poker in Red Dead, or playing Sabak in Outlaws, or Gwent in Witcher.
We've learned some new lore today, Anthony, about Rich.
The rich lore.
The rich lore, yeah. It's very rich lore that we gain once a week, it seems. Last week we learned about Lady Luck and his old car. Now we're learning about card games in a baseball game. Love it. All right, guys, should we jump over and start talking about The Witcher?
Yes.
Let's start by talking about our experience with the Witcher franchise over the years, where we first jumped into that, how deep into Witcher lore we got. And yeah, I'll start with Rich.
All right, let's see. So I think, my first exposure was The Witcher 3. I just looked like a cool game, read a couple, watched some reviews or whatever, and just got it. Loved it right away. I mean, that's my kryptonite. I mean, the amount of side quests. I mean, it's paralyzing, but it's the kind of game I love to play. It takes me forever to get through because I'm very meticulous, and but I enjoy that so much. And then you give me some magic, and you let me ride a horse. You're really.
That's it.
I love it.
That's it, baby.
So
Roach.
I really enjoyed it, and then I heard that they were making a series, so I decided that I want to start reading the books. But I guess caveat is that I decided to read all of those books in Spanish. So just it's not my strongest language, right? So I'm not sure if there's like innuendo that I may have not kind of picked up on in my reads.
It's an interesting choice, though. Why did you? I know it's not like an English first book. It's originally a Polish book, so it's translated into English. So I guess the translation would probably be just as strong into Spanish. But why did you choose Spanish?
Just because I figured if I'm going to push myself to read more in Spanish, then I should do it with something that I'd really like.
That's fair.
So
Okay.
I've only really read fantasy in Spanish, essentially. Like dragons almost involved in everything. So but I did really love all the, I did notice obviously how like the game is different than the story that you're presented in the book, and then the Netflix series. I was very excited for that, and I will say I watched all of it. I was confused. There were times where I would just like finish an episode and I would go on Wikipedia and go like, that's not what I remember. Because I thought it was this language thing. I was like, maybe I just read it wrong in Spanish. So let me go to the wiki in English. And sure enough, there were just wholesale changes that I didn't like, because for me, it's the game and then the books. That's my headcanon. So the series deviated so much from that I really disliked it.
Well, that's why
That's
Cavill
fair.
left.
Mm-hmm. I respect that.
Ultimately, yeah.
Yeah. They were making changes. The thing I appreciate about Henry Cavill a lot is that, I mean, he is a nerd, and when he does something, he will like full send into it, and like he will like he'll make sure he does his homework, and he wants to stick with the stories and the books, but with the adaptation of Geralt from the game. And so like I thought he did pretty well, and then they want to start to deviate, and so that's why we have Liam coming out sometime. I don't even know, like I felt like that was supposed to be out
Are they still doing that? Are they still doing a season 4?
Dude, I want to know. Like, I think that like now they're probably like, oh, I don't know. I mean, even Henry Cavill is like trying to be like, yeah, just give him a chance, But even then, like, most of us are like, no, we don't want to. but yeah, I feel that a lot. I've wanted to. Before I say anything, Rich, you got any more tidbits or anything about your connection?
No, that's kind of just, like when I suggested this show that we're going to talk about today, honestly, I didn't see a trailer. It was like I had just put Netflix on, and I don't normally surf Netflix. So it's rare that I even go to my home screen on it. Like if we're watching like, Arrested Development, I go exactly to that. So I opened it, and one day it was just right there, and I was like, "Whoa, where did that come from? I have not heard anything about this." So before I even took a look at it, I was just like, "Hey, let's take a look at this." And as we'll see, we'll kind of, I think, as the episode progresses tonight, I think a common theme with Netflix seems to be making changes for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it was a bad movie, but yeah, there were like really random changes, I will say. But we'll definitely talk about that more in a bit. Anthony, let's jump over to you.
So mine is pretty much similar to Rich's. I mean, me being a gamer, I played the game. I didn't play the first or second Witcher. I think I had heard about them before, but I had seen The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, and like I think at some point it was like the version that had all the DLC, and it was on sale, so I got it, and I took the dive into it. I feel like they do a pretty decent job with explaining things that have happened before in the game. I still think that it would be interesting to play the first two, but that was like pretty much like my first experience with it. Absolutely loved the game. The world was really interesting. I liked the idea of, this mutated being that's like a monster hunter that has like these magic abilities. And then I hopped onto the show. I watched the first season, which for the most part I did enjoy. I started the second season and like immediately fell off. Like I was just like, there's just something not right about this. And I've always wanted to hop into the books, but I've never had the chance to. But they're like in my purview,
Totally, yeah. So I have a little bit of a different introduction to The Witcher because I never played through Witcher 3. I've only played a couple hours into it, I think. Enough to give me like a good like vibe of the game. I think at the time that I was doing, I just didn't have a lot of time to devote to video games, but I would like to jump back in eventually. But prior to having played The Witcher 3, I had jumped into the novels. I was really big into the novels leading up to the release of Netflix's show. I was excited to see how they would adapt it. Getting such a big name as Henry Cavill on board was very exciting for me. So I think I read the first 5 books. The first 2 books are like short story compilations, and then the other, I think there's 5 other novels. I read 3 of them. And they're like actual novels pertaining to the life of Geralt, Yennefer, Ciri, and so forth. And yeah, I enjoyed them, but not as much as I enjoyed the first 2 novels, which are short story compilations. For some reason, I felt like that was like the pinnacle of how good The Witcher can be, in terms of like, it's a short, all-encompassing story. It has a moral lesson that it tries to teach you by the end of it. And it's always just like short and snappy, but it's always pretty cool because it's a different monster hunt episode every single short story. So I like those first 2 novels the best. But yeah, I did not like the Netflix series. I tried to. I really tried to. But after the first season, I think I watched the first episode of the second season, and I fell off, yeah. Like, I couldn't watch anything past that point. But yeah, so I'm excited to talk about this because, unfortunately, I think Netflix's show, which is why I was, like, reading the novels, was so bad to me that I stopped reading the novels. So I still have like 2 or 3 novels left. And I think there's a new novel that just came out by Andrzej Sapkowski, like another Witcher novel. Again, I have no idea what the chronology is between the novels into the Witcher game. I know that there is probably some differences there, but I don't know how much.
Yeah, I can't tell you that No, I mean, I think that there were things that from the game that I definitely saw on the show, but in terms of how it's laid out, I don't really recall. I do know that at the beginning of Witcher 3, they give you an opportunity to make decisions that you would have made at the end of Witcher 2, I believe. And it kind of gives you like a history of the game franchise, but how that plays with the novels, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to like do some more research and get back to you guys on that. But what did you guys think of Sirens of the Deep? Anthony, we'll start with you.
I thought that Sirens of the Deep was pretty good. I enjoyed my watch. I don't know. I haven't read the short story like you have, Dakota, so I don't know, what the major changes would be from that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I really did enjoy it. There were some aspects of it that were derivative of The Little Mermaid.
I guess that's kind of the joy of those first short stories with The Witcher, because like there's a Beauty and the Beast short story, there's a Snow White short story, so this was the clear derivative of The Little Mermaid. Yeah.
Right, like you have this human prince that is in love with this mermaid princess, and they even have a sea witch that comes up with this like potion to like turn her into human. Like there's a lot that I'm like, bro, this is like The Little Mermaid with a monster hunter in it. Like, I'm not saying it was bad though. Like, I enjoyed it. You can always take a story and like put your own spin on it, and this was the spin with The Witcher on it, right? And it was cool. Like, I really liked it. I felt like Geralt was very much so the one that I remember from like the video games. He's this like monster hunter, but like he's very awkward and just like social interactions. That's just not his thing. His social interaction is with swords, and that's it. Well, not that's it, but like that's really what he is. Like that's his job. His job is to kill monsters and just do his thing. So seeing his social interactions in the show reminds me of a lot of the social interactions from the game. A lot of it like made me like chuckle because his awkwardness is funny.
Yeah. So let's break down the story a little bit of Sirens of the Deep. And I'm going to try not to get it blended too much into the short story, A Little Sacrifice. There's the Witcher and Jaskier, or Dandelion if you follow the short story. Actually, is he Dandelion in the game?
Yes.
He is?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. Yeah, so the Witcher is tasked to come and visit a small seaside town, basically, where there's been a series of attacks on human fishermen who are like pearl divers and stuff by mermaids and other mermen-like creatures that the mermaids are in cahoots with. And we find out that there's a prince named Prince Aglaval who is in love with the princess of the mer people named Shea-Nuts. Not Ariel. It's different. It's Shea-Nuts. And yeah, so that kind of just starts a... Not like a... That doesn't necessarily start a war, but it does... It's something that Aglaval's father, the king, is incapable of getting behind. It's a marriage that would never work. So He's doing everything in his power to stop that from happening, and he goes so far as to basically start a war that he knows isn't true, so that he can, break these two individuals apart. And eventually, love persists.
That's an excellent rundown. And the one thing I guess I want to start with is I don't really understand why anything from the original story had to be changed.
Right, yeah. So there's actually quite a bit of stuff that they changed from the original story. There are some beats that are still there. And there's enough beats where it's just like, well, why not just keep the rest of it? So in the short story, Anthony, it's not a prince, it's a duke. It's Duke Aglaval.
Okay.
It doesn't really follow like Shea-Nuts and the mer people at all in the book. So they definitely give a much more heavy focus to the mermaids in this one. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more of a focus towards the mer people in this. Like they actually go into the water and show you like what they're dealing with under the water. They don't do that at all in the book. And there's really not that much of a... There is a sea witch, but it's not half as, like... They basically made this movie much more in line with The Little Mermaid than the actual story is, basically. Would you take that to, like, be the case,
Yeah,
Rich?
I just...
In terms of, like, there was no real Ursula character in the short story, but they definitely turned it into a Ursula, taking human form and corrupting the royal line, basically.
Yeah, I was watching it. I ended up watching it because, what I do. So I watched it 3 times. The first time, I just watched it too late and fell asleep. The second time, I'm watching, and I remember I had flashes because I had been falling asleep the night before. And I'm going, man, this is like The Little Mermaid. And I don't remember feeling that. Again, I read it in Spanish, so then half of me is like, maybe I just didn't pick up on it. I don't know. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I can read it well enough. So, yeah, by the end, I obviously it dawned on me that it was really similar in a way that I don't understand. I mean, there was enough of a veiled reference to it, right, in the story, the way it was originally written, that I think you didn't need to kind of like hammer home. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have a singing crab. I'm just surprised, right? Like,
they did give the Ursula character a singing role in this movie, which is very funny. I enjoyed that, at least. but yes, there's really no reason for that. I don't know. I actually didn't hate it, but yeah. Anyway, continue, Rich.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And this is what bothers me. I mean, it pains me as an English teacher by trade to say this aloud, but this is one of those scenarios where the Netflix stuff makes me wish I hadn't read the books, right? Like, I wish I were ignorant.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I don't know why they do that.
Then I'd be like, hey, you know what? I love this content related to this game that I have no knowledge of outside of the game. But no, I went ahead and read, and I have spoiled it. So I thought this was just a random thing because, Dakota, as you know, there's nothing called Sirens of the Deep in any of the books, right?
Yeah.
So I am like, oh, this is random new content. And then as I'm watching it, I'm like, wait, this is like part, like the last little sacrifice. And I'm like,
you probably like realize probably like 20 minutes in that like this sounds very familiar.
Yes.
But
and then the Little Mermaid stuff, and I'm just sitting there and I'm going, I'm really confused. I thought this was something different, but it's something that's already been done, but they're not doing it the same way. And I will say, look, I really enjoyed my time with Geralt, like Anthony was saying.
Yeah, okay. So Anthony, they changed quite a few things. Like, there was no king in the original short story. Celeste is just a character in the story. He's not like the half brother of Prince Aglaval. In the story, Aglaval is just a duke, and he's kind of a jerk too. Like, so the basic premise of A Little Sacrifice is that there are a bunch of different characters that need to basically do a little sacrifice if they're ever going to either get along with the people that they're trying to get along with, or Prince Aglaval, who's kind of a snooty duke. Or not Prince Aglaval, but Duke Aglaval is not as chivalrous as he's portrayed in this movie. He's like actually a real jerk, and he's very bratty. Like, why isn't the mermaid willing and able to like come onto land? And like Shionat says, why aren't you willing to give a little sacrifice of your own? The whole thing is about a little sacrifice, even from like side characters to side characters. And in the movie, they actually do mention the term a little sacrifice 2 or 3 times. So they aren't like shy about hiding that is the adapted work that they're trying to get to. But they conflated some stories like a lot, and then like diluted some stories a lot. Like the Essie Davin character is like one of my favorites ever. Like, she's so good. Like the way that she's written in the book. Essie Davin here is she's just a character that, the Witcher beds basically. Another thing that they changed is Jaskier or Dandelion. I don't think they ever mentioned that he's from this town but they made a very big deal about how, Bremivort was like the place that he was from, that he decided to leave in this movie. And they made that a huge plot point that could have been used for other things. But I mean, I get it. They want to make Jaskier seem more important to the story overall and the Witcher mythos. So yeah. Rich, what do you think is the change that most bothered you? Or if there's a change that didn't bother you, like why?
Well, like, all right, so, at the end, when you have who has to make the sacrifice, the prince ends up making it, which I don't know. It's just a weird, I think it's a needless flip-flop. I think it's...
Right, because in the book, it's Sheonats who decides to choose legs and come onto land. But in this story, it's the prince going into the water.
Yeah, I mean,
he gave a little sacrifice.
Like, it's...
Huge sacrifice.
It's not the same. In a world where monsters are diminishing, right? And, you have literally a monster hunter, right? Becoming human while leaving all you know is difficult, right? It's not a bad step up, right? In terms of, you're kind of going from a close to extinct race, right? To now part of a race that is thriving. Just on those merits alone, the switch makes no sense. And I think it was just like something to do because, it's 2025, so they just flip-flopped. And I think that it's sloppy. If you're going to change something, then it still needs to be logical. And I just think that the prince, he's essentially leaving his royal line, right? I mean, like, that's it. That's the end. I mean, he's going to the ocean. I mean, he's not having a human baby after that. It's just frustrating.
They also changed the look of the mermaids. I don't know if you caught that from the story. But like they're very human-esque in the books. I think in like the first like 2 or 3 lines of the short story, it explains that Sheonats has like the most magnificent breasts that Geralt has ever seen, or something like that.
Yeah.
So...
yeah. I mean, you're right. These were not the most attractive mermaids I've ever seen. It doesn't sell it. Like, honestly, I was like, that looks like, I don't know fish that well, but like definitely made it less believable. I mean, it definitely made it less believable. Right. I mean, the only thing
that the prince would fall in love with this.
The only thing that I think makes sense, I guess, right, is that it like when the other people are like disgusted by it, right? You're like, yeah, no, I get it, right? Like you can better understand the opposition to it. But I don't understand the change. I mean, even in Greek mythology, like the Sirens are like they were attractive, right? But the point is that they were able to lure sailors because of their song and because they were attractive.
And also, it is kind of a weird stylistic choice on Netflix's part because they aren't shy about making it like a rated R product. Like they curse plenty. There's so much gore. It's like crazy. Lots of violence. They really, I don't know. I mean, it's weird that they chose that to be their siren. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Essie Davin. Because her character, while it was nice seeing an adaptation that included her, it really missed the mark on like what made her so great, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Or just some of the backstory in regards to Essie. Like, she ends up falling in love with the Witcher. And there's a long back and forth between the Witcher and her as far as, like, what they're willing to sacrifice for their relationship. And ultimately, she realizes that the Witcher is not capable of a little sacrifice for her. That is something that is not possible. And I think that is like part of the heartbreak of the story. A little sacrifice is that, like she realizes that what she wants from Geralt is not something that he can give. So she takes a gift given to her by Dandelion. And Dandelion told her that this pearl was given as a gift for her birthday from him and Geralt. And she takes that as like his only sacrifice really to her. And throughout the story, she says that like the thing that she fears most is dying to some illness. And then like the narrator of the story, which is Jaskier, he tells us that like he'll never tell Geralt the true, how, several years later after this A Little Sacrifice story took place, he carried her to her grave because she died of like some smallpox or something like that. And she like wanted to be buried with this pearl that, she believes is from Geralt. So it's just such a sad ending that like goes completely like undone. Not undone, but like it just they ignore it completely in this film. But yeah, anyway. All that being said, I do like the movie. I think it was a fun movie, but like Rich said, I wish I hadn't read I wish I hadn't read the story.
It's honestly fun. Like it really is. Like I actually, if I just take that other the previous knowledge, right? I like the Little Mermaid ties. It actually made it fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought to myself, hey, you know what? Like I might be able to rewatch this with my wife, and she'll catch those vibes right away and go, oh, I like this, right? Like it might actually make it more enjoyable for her too. So what's frustrating about it is just that I don't know, like if
I could see Rich is like silently fuming over there, just like he's trying to like be as positive as possible, but he seems to be more upset about the changes that they made to this story than I am. And this is like my favorite Witcher story, but I feel you, man. It wasn't bad. Like, it's a fun movie, and I liked that they added all that stuff about the mermaids. I liked the inclusion of, like, a sea witch / kraken. That was a cool, like, sea battle, and they definitely took it in their own direction, though. And that's kind of what bothered me, and I think that's why they didn't call it a little sacrifice, just because they took that concept and cherry-picked what they wanted and went another direction, basically.
This isn't Hamlet. All right, I don't need your reimagining.
Yeah, actually,
this is recent modern literature. All right, It's not even 50 years. If you're gonna adapt something that is recent in media, then you need to make it match. That's the problem.
They would never get away with this if this was like Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
Oh no, yeah.
There'd be riots.
They'd get strung up. Yeah.
It would be so crazy. Just like all these Gandalfs walking down the street, just like, you shall not pass the cars on bridges. It would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be nuts. Anthony, you got any final thoughts on Sirens of the Deep?
The Sirens were in the deep, and
they were.
There were other like animals, like sea animals that were down there that, they were humanoid, which I thought was interesting. But, like I'm coming into this without, reading that short story. So, I don't know like what changes were made. I mean, how I feel about changes being made.
I guess I'm most curious about what you think, because Rich and I have our own opinion based on some pre-existing knowledge. What do you feel about the movie, having, like, forgetting everything that we said today, basically?
Right. Well,
what are your thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I liked it, even though, like I said, there was definitely a lot that was ripped from The Little Mermaid, The Sea Witch. Yeah, that musical number was interesting because, I mean, anytime that there was singing in this show, it made sense. Like, it was like, Jaskier he's a bard, And so, like, that's his thing. But the Sea Witch, like, it was, like, something completely out of Disney. Like, she's singing while all this magic is happening. It was, like, very, like, so I was like, okay, this is interesting. But, yeah, like, I saw Ursula, I saw Ariel. It was, very interesting. Just, yeah, you had Witcher thrown into it. But, I did enjoy it. Do I feel like I might have felt differently had I read the short story? Probably. I mean, you know how I feel when they make changes to anything I enjoy. I semi-ripped the Avatar Netflix series, so I probably would have felt different.
I will say that the Witcher series is much further from the books than the Avatar series is from the animated series.
So yeah, I would.
So yeah.
How about y'all?
Well, I will say that I enjoyed it for the most part. So I didn't fully remember the story, but I knew that they had made some changes because like some stuff wasn't clicking in my head. From like, when I watched it, I was like, man, this seems a little off, but you know what? I'm enjoying it. I'm just gonna like go for the ride and see how this compares to the short story later. And then I read the short story. I was like, oh, actually, this is like completely, well, not completely different, but there's quite a bit of like change that just didn't need to happen, but it happened.
Dakota said maybe I shouldn't have gone back to read that.
I know I should have just enjoyed
stayed
the story. What I will say, I loved the animation style. I thought that was like a really really strong animation style.
I did too. The animation was really well done, especially in the combat scenes. Like, it was so
like I was
good.
gonna get to my seat. And you never like didn't know what was going on screen, which was that's rare for like something where there's like 20 plus people on screen. Very good animation. I was really pleased with it.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say maybe 7.5 out of 10. On its own. Having like foregoing my knowledge of what it's based off of. But yeah, I enjoyed it. What about you, Rich?
I think I'm in the same boat. I did really like the animation. I thought that the voice acting was really well done. I thought that whoever voiced Geralt, just the writing and the delivery was perfect. It made me feel like I was playing the game, or to Henry Cavill's credit, the show, he was excellent as well. So I thought that was great. I remember there was specifically one sequence, but Geralt is like running up something, like some monster. And he's just like running up the steps, like the back, like if he were going up like a stair, like a kind of an oval star or round staircase. Just the way he's like pitter patter, and they were cutting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I was thinking about how this is something that's really cool that wouldn't be done the same way if it were live action. And in that moment,
yeah.
I kind of said to myself, they're doing a really good job of not making an animated movie, but using the medium of animation to tell a story, which I thought was really cool.
No, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's not just anime. It's not like, okay, so we couldn't get the actors, we're going to do this. It was actually like they played with it. So I enjoyed that.
And what's actually interesting is they did get some of the actors back from the TV series on Netflix. Like the character who plays Jaskier on the TV series is Joey Batty, or Beatty, and he's playing Jaskier again here. And I think there's a couple scenes with Yennefer that they actually bring back Anya Chilatra from the live action series as well.
I thought they sounded good, so that's awesome. I mean,
it was not Henry Cavill as the Witcher. There was a guy named Doug Cockle.
Could have fooled me. Could have fooled me. He's got a good Cavill impression, I guess.
He just thought, he thought of Henry Cavill and cross between him and maybe Christian Bale's Batman, and
love it. Guys, thank you so much for listening to us here for our 112th episode of Project Geekology. Next week we have a fun show. Rich, you don't know what we're covering yet because we haven't told you, but Anthony and I were talking pre-show, and we've decided to cover Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. It's on Netflix, and I'm excited. I really like that movie.
Same.
I'm actually very excited. I've seen that, and I actually was thinking I was going to ask you guys if it was worth a watch because I figured you guys had seen it already. And then I was like, you know what? They've probably already talked about it, and it slipped my mind. So this is really cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I actually had to ask Dakota that if we covered it because I forgot if we did or not. I know we did talk about it.
I don't think so.
But like in the beginning,
Yeah, I don't think we did.
Not like a full discussion, yeah.
Yeah, but we shall make an episode of Honor Among Thieves next week, episode 113.
Yes.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to us here for our 112th episode. If you'd like to check out any of our socials, be sure to click into our show notes down below, where you can find any of our links for other social sites. while you're here and, while you're listening, and if you'd want to contribute something positive to our day and to the show, be sure to, snap into crack open like a nice juicy Slim Jim.
Yes, a Slim Jim makes a return.
Yeah. Give us a 5-star juicy review as you enjoy that Slim Jim. You will thank us later, basically.
Oh my gosh, one of like the driest meat sticks.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, dude. It was like a juicy, sizzling Slim Jim. All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Alrighty, y'all.
Geralt of Rivia.